Hello students, can you hear me? Students, can you hear me? Just show me now with a thumbs up or something like that. Can you hear me? Anjali, Nidhi, Akansha, Aditya, thanks. Okay, we'll start because we have a lot to complete today. All right. Okay. Other people can join in later on. We'll start because we have a lot to complete. Class, what I'm going to do with all of you today is we are going to be shifting because till now we were doing Western political thinkers, all right? So I thought a little bit of break is also required. So today I'll cover your ideology called liberalism. When we complete your liberalism as an ideology, that is your topic 8, all right, of paper 1. But apart from that, it will also help you cover your theory of state. Liberal theory, I've already told you, liberal theory is limited to your social contract thinkers. All right. But today, while teaching you ideology, I'm also going to tell you what is liberal theory of state as well as neoliberal theory of state. So, with one, liberalism, you'll understand liberalism as an ideology. You'll understand liberal theory as well as neoliberal theory of state. That's your theory of state, is your topic number 2. Paper 1, part A, topic number 2. All right. And plus, I need you to understand liberalism. What is classical liberalism? What is modern liberalism? So that I can teach you JS Mill clearly. All right. That's the reason why I'm diverging a little and taking liberalism first. All right. You'll have to keep your this thing on mute, please. Please keep it on mute so that there is no disturbance, etc. All right. So we'll start with ideology. I'll tell you first when liberalism, I'll give you an idea of what is an ideology all about. Then we'll start with liberalism. All right. But while teaching you liberalism, I'll be going to and fro between theory of state and everything. So overall, by the time you're completed with this chapter, you'll understand what is classical liberalism, what is modern liberalism, what is neoliberalism. So your theories of state also will be taken care of. All right. Okay. Let's start with ideology. This is your chapter number 8 or topic number 8, paper 1, part A. Okay. Now, what is an ideology? Ideology is nothing but set of ideas which are accepted to be true by a particular group, party, or a nation without further examination. Generally, it is identified with a commitment to a particular cause and rules out personal interest and biases. So it's basically a set of ideas, okay, which are considered to be true by a particular group of people. It can be a party, it can be a nation, it can be a particular group. All right. And they are generally, there is a commitment to that particular cause. So there is no personal biases, personal prejudices. It is collective. All right. So it is a set of ideas. These set of ideas are also used to justify a way of social, economic, political organization. So it's a matter of faith as no scientific backing or verification is available. See, because this set of ideas, which here I've already told you, are accepted without further examination. So because there is no further examination, what happens? They generally accept it to be true. And there is no further examination also because there is no verification. So there is no verification to say that, okay, liberalism has been successful or Marxism has been a failure. There is no verification. All right. So because of that, what happens is these are set of ideas that are generally believed to be true but cannot be verified. Okay, that's why we generally consider them to be a matter of faith, because the people who follow that particular ideology do so with a complete faith in that ideology. Okay, but no scientific backing or verification is possible. Okay, now ideology is related to politics, of course, that's why we're studying it in political science, and it involves a passionate search for better society according to prescribed model. Class, here comes a difference. When I taught you in the very first lecture, all right, that political theory is neutral. Political theory is supposed to be dispassionate. Okay, it is supposed to be disinterested look at something. So you have to take a bird's eye view, third person's view of something. All right, that's why political theory is neutral. Ideology is not neutral. Ideology is passionate search, because there are certain people who believe that this certain set of ideas are true. All right, so that's why it is passionate. Political theory is neutral, it is dispassionate. Ideology is passionate because it is a set of ideas which certain people believe to be true. All right. So remember, ideology is always passionate search for better society according to prescribed models. Today I'm going to teach you liberalism, then we'll study socialism, Marxism, etc. So it is always a search for better society. All right, that's the reason why ideologies come up, because they are not happy with what is, so they really want to bring about a particular change in a society. And of course, a positive change. Nobody wants a negative change, everybody wants a positive change. So it's a passionate search for better society according to prescribed models. So liberalism that I teach you today has its own models, socialism has its own models, Marxism has its own models. Ideology is action oriented, which is used to defend an existing system or advocate radical change in the system. Okay. Now, to defend existing system can be any ideology that is defending. It is in favor of whatever is. The way it is, they feel it is the best. Let's continue with it. So, ideology can also defend an existing system, but it can also advocate radical change in the system. Advocate radical change in the system. Best example is Marxism. They were not happy with the exploitation, what was happening of the working class. So he wanted to overthrow the state, okay, overthrow the capitalist class and establish dictatorship of the proletariat. Proletariat is a sense, be the people, normal people who do not have means of productions, okay, who are the people who work as wage laborers. So basically, ideology is action oriented. It can defend an existing system, all right, or it can even advocate radical change in the system. Radical change in the system, you will see when I teach you Marxism, class struggle. He's talking about class struggle, that inevitably it is going to lead to the proletariat's dictatorship, and finally the state is not required. So state will wither away. It will be a stateless, classless society. Communism will be established. All right. So it can either defend an existing system or it can even advocate a radical change in the system. Hence, it may lend legitimacy to current ruling class or advocate a revolution to overthrow it. In contemporary times, ideology is used and applied to the set of ideas which are adopted by a group in order to motivate it to achieve a predetermined goal. For example, totalitarianism. There is a predetermined goal. You know, there is complete control in totalitarianism. There is a complete control over your social, economic, political life by the authority. That authority can be one person or group of persons. All right. So it can lead to totalitarianism also. Ideology has been condemned as a reflection of false consciousness or as an instrument of totalitarianism. Because, see, ideology are a set of ideas that a person believes are true. Okay, there is no verifiability, there is no chance of scientific backing about it. Okay, it's a matter of faith. I've already told you, it's a matter of faith. So what happens? A particular group of people who believe that this particular ideology is the right way, is the best, it's always going to bring about positive change in the society. It can lead to false consciousness, all right, and can also become an instrument of totalitarianism, because these people absolutely believe that, okay, listen, whatever we are speaking about, whatever set of ideas we are talking about are truth, are truthful, and they are the only ones that can establish a new society, either defend an existing society or overthrow and create a new society. So basically it can relate to false consciousness. It may not always be true because it is a belief system, all right, and it has no verification or it has no scientific backing. So what are the ideologies that we are going to be studying? Liberalism, that I'll be teaching you today. Socialism, Marxism, Karl Marx, all right? Fascism, Mussolini. If you remember fascism, I had already spoken to you about fascism when I was teaching you Plato. So when I teach you fascism, I'll again go back to Plato and do the comparison between fascism and Plato, okay? Gandhism, father of our nation. So Mahatma Gandhi we're going to be talking about, and feminism, all right? Now, let's come to liberalism. Now, class, have you understood ideology? Nobody's going to ask you what is an ideology. It is only for your knowledge that I've told you what it is all about. All right. But now start paying attention because we're starting with liberalism. All right. After every content, I'll stop. Okay. So after classical liberalism, I'll stop. I'll see if you have any questions only. Then I'll go ahead. All right. Okay, now I'm just going to give you a basic idea of liberalism. Now, liberalism, of course, is going to be paper 1, part A, topic 8, the first topic. All right. But liberalism, again, is going to be covered under your topic number 2, theories of state, liberal and neoliberal. All right. So, we'll be covering all of it today itself. And I'm teaching you liberalism because, one, to take a little bit break from Western political thinkers, because we've done Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, Hobbes, Locke in continuation. Okay. Plus, last time when I was teaching you Locke, and I gave you a little bit brief about Rousseau. Again, I'm telling you, Rousseau is not in your syllabus, but Rousseau is required. Only the fact that you need to know about Rousseau is that he's important from liberal theory of state point of view. All right. So just remember popular sovereignty. Just remember popular sovereignty is nothing but real will of all the people coming together. That is the general will. All right. So basically, so that's the only reason why Rousseau was dealt with. Otherwise, you do not have to study Rousseau. Only remember popular sovereignty, real will, and general will for Rousseau. Okay. So Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau together make your liberal theory of state. All right. But then you have even neoliberal theory of state. So that I'll be teaching you today. All right. Plus, I need you to understand what is classical liberalism, what is modern liberalism, what is neoliberalism, so then I can explain to you J.S. Mill. All right, that's the next thinker after Locke. So for that reason, I'm diverging a little and taking your liberalism first, so that we cover topics. Plus, it helps you in understanding J.S. Mill better. All right. So now, when you talk about liberalism, it is a modern ideology. Okay, modern ideology in the sense it starts with something around 17th century. All right, it was a reaction against feudal society and monarchy. See, feudal society was something that was seen in Europe. All right. So there was something called as landlords or the feudal lords, which who owned the lands. Okay. And the people who worked on the lands, for cultivation, production, etc. Okay. They were called as serfs. All right. These serfs had a right to property, etc. But they were bonded. So they could not leave their job until and unless the landlord allowed them to do so. All right. So there was basically feudal system was the society divided into landlords, all right, and serfs. All right. Serfs were the ones who were working on the fields owned by the landlords. So basically, it was against feudal society as well as monarchy. You know, Europe has always seen majority of monarchy concepts. All right. So liberalism turned out to be a reaction against feudal societies, the landlords dominating, all right, over the serfs, and monarchy. All right. Renaissance. If you remember, I've taught you Renaissance when I was teaching you Machiavelli. The Renaissance was when scientific temper, humanism, spirit of human beings started coming up. Reformation was when the church broke into two diverse fields. One was Protestantism, second was Roman Catholic Church. All right. Enlightenment is something around 17th, 18th century Europe, wherein the focus was more on rationality of man, scientific temper, questioning superstitions, etc. See, once you have reason, of course, you're going to start questioning all the superstitions and the religious doctrines that were dominating. So it was supposed to use your reason. Enlightenment meant use your reason, use your rationality to question whatever is happening in the society. This happened something around 17th and 18th century. Plus there was progressivism, etc. All part of enlightenment. All right. So Renaissance, human spirit, and scientific temper, Reformation, removing church's dominance as much as possible, especially Roman Catholic Church's dominance. Enlightenment, focus on rationality of man, etc., led to emergence of liberalism as an ideology. All right, so just remember, it is a reaction against feudal society that was seen in Europe and absolute monarchy that was seen in Europe. All right. Second, Renaissance, Reformation, Enlightenment led to the emergence of this ideology. Liberalism is an ideology of an emerging bourgeois class. Bourgeois is nothing but modern capitalist. Simplistically meaning the people who own social means of productions, industries, etc. Okay, so the people who own these are called as capitalist class. So modern capitalist class is nothing but bourgeois class. All right. When you talk about Marxism, Marxism is the proletariat class, right? Opposite class, the worker class. So liberalism is an ideology of emerging bourgeois class. Okay, the modern capitalist class. These people, okay, the modern capitalists started questioning why only landlords should have ownership of land. All right, why should only monarchy have political power? Why not bourgeois class? Okay, so when you see French Revolution, you'll see in French Revolution, which took place from 1787 to 1789 to 1799. All right, the concepts of your fraternity, equality, liberty come from French Revolution. Okay, you actually see that these bourgeois class also started getting political power. All right, so French Revolution is the best example of knowing the emergence of this bourgeois class as not just economic class but also as political class, questioning feudal lords as well as monarchy. So bourgeois class after French Revolution started becoming important, or they started gaining more importance, not only in economic field. Of course, economic field, because they were the capitalist class, they were the ones who were owning the social means of production. All right. But so economic power they absolutely had. But along with that came even their political power. All right. After French Revolution. So liberalism as an ideology is belongs to emerging bourgeois class. It is the longest serving ideology since its emergence in 17th century Europe. All right. It is accommodative, liberal in nature, and hence it has survived for a long time. You will see why it is accommodative. There is classical liberalism, there is modern liberalism, then there is neoliberalism. All right. So that's the reason why it is said to be accommodative, and it is liberal in nature. So it is accepting the changes that come and take place. All right. Hence, it has survived for a long period of time. It is a way of life in Western countries, not just an ideology. All of us have generally heard about Cold War. All right. Cold War, basically, we spoke about the world being divided into two groups. One was capitalist countries under US and communist countries under Soviet Union. The capitalist countries are the countries we are talking about, are considered liberal countries, liberal democratic countries. Okay, so basically it is a way of life in Western countries. Remember this: Cold War, the capitalist bloc, the Western Europe and America, United States of America, are generally considered to be capitalist countries. Capitalism is nothing but a format of liberalism. All right. So, according to Francis Fukuyama, liberalism was the end point of ideological evolution. Simplistically put, see what happened. Cold War happened. All right. There was capitalist countries under US, communist countries under Soviet Union, and now Russia. All right. But what happened? 1991, Soviet Union collapsed, disintegrated. So Fukuyama said, imagine if Soviet Union, who was the leader of the communist bloc, or the so-called leader of a communist bloc, disintegrated, that means who indirectly won? Liberalism won. So finally, liberalism was an endpoint of ideological evolution. So it has been proven as victorious. It has been in what you can say, it has been there since 17th century till even the 21st century. You still see liberalism. All right. So basically, Francis Fukuyama said that basically ideological evolution's end point was liberalism, because liberalism won. Soviet Union, the leader of the communist bloc, disintegrated. So only one ideology remains, that is liberalism. So it is an end of ideological debate. Okay, so liberalism is also called as a meta ideology. Various different schools exist within it, and there is a debate amongst the same. But like I told you, see, liberalism is accommodative and liberal in nature. So various schools, various modes of thoughts came up. Each country adopted it according to its own polity. All right. So just remember, liberalism was an ideology of modern times, emerged in 17th century Europe. All right. Reformation, Renaissance, Enlightenment played a very important role in emergence of this ideology. And it was against feudal society and monarchy in Europe. See, I've written here, Europe. All right. And it has survived for a long time. All right. And there's a way of life in Western countries. Okay, now this is generally a question that is asked. Liberalism isn't a fixed mode of thought, but an intellectual movement which seeks to accommodate new ideas in order to face new situations and new challenges. Like I told you, liberalism is a very accommodative ideology. All right, each and every country used it to accommodate it to their own polity. All right, that's the reason why intellectual movement, all the thinkers who contributed to it, Locke contributed to it, had his own thinking. Then you talk about J.S. Mill, had his own thinking. Lasky has his own thinking. And neoliberals, Nozick, Hayek, Friedman have their own thinking. So it was accommodative. It accepted various views of thought. That's why it is a mode of thought. It is just an intellectual movement. All right. So you cannot say only this is liberalism. Liberalism has, it's like an intellectual movements with number of intellectuals contributing to it. All right. So it was basically intellectual movements to face new situations and new challenges. Okay. The journey can be traced from Locke. All right. That's why I told you liberalism, L for Locke, L for liberalism. I told you Locke is considered to be the father of liberalism. Focus, liberalism talks about liberty. That is exactly what you're going to talk about here also. So journey can be traced from Locke to Nozick. Nozick I'll teach you when I teach you neoliberalism. Philosophers, sociologists, economists of 18th and 19th century formulated a political program that served as a guide for social policy, first in England and US, then in Europe and later parts of the world. All right. But nowhere liberal program was clearly or completely carried out, not even in England, which was a homeland of liberalism. Why homeland of liberalism? First, because Locke. The concept of liberalism itself comes from Locke. All right. So L for Locke, L for liberalism, L for liberty, L for limited government. All these concepts come from Locke. I told you, Hobbes and Locke both belong to England. Then when I teach you the concept of modern liberalism, all the major thinkers again belong to England. So England was supposed to be the homeland of liberalism. But even in England itself, liberalism was never completely adapted or adopted. All right. It was changed. As the situations changed, liberalism also adopted itself or adapted itself to the changing situation. Okay. Now, it was a product of breakdown of feudalism and growth of market economy and capitalist society. So transition from agriculture to mercantile and manufacturing class. Like I told you the last slide, that it was basically, it was an ideology against feudalism, the landlords, all right, who owned the lands, and the serfs who worked on them, all right. And it was also a product of growth of market economy, capitalists. Now what are capitalists? These are the people who have social means of production, like large industries or small industries, but they are the ones who are into mercantilism or they are into manufacturing and production and distribution itself. All right. So these people, the capitalists, are motivated by profits, money. Money is their main motivation. So basically, it was a product of growth of market economy also and capitalist society also. Everything is depending upon the markets. Markets demand everything. That is what is going to happen in the society. So everything is profit motive. Everything is self-interest. All right. So it was a transition from agriculture to mercantile class. If you have read about industrial revolution which took place in Europe, especially in England, all right, again was a transition from agriculture to more of urban industrialized class. So that also influenced your liberalism. It attacked absolutism and feudal privileges. Absolutism here means monarchy, all right, and feudal privileges in the sense means landlords, and advocated constitutional and representative government. This is exactly what I spoke to you when I taught you Locke. Okay, limited government based on the consent of the people. Government was required according to Locke only for making legislature to make laws, to execute laws, and to adjudicate the laws. So he gave you three organs of government: legislature to make laws, executive who had judicial as well as implementation power, and federative powers. What were the federative powers? To have foreign policy, external policy. All right. So basically, it was a constitutional government, limited government, as well as representative government. It was limited because consent of the people, majority rule. That's the word I had used when I was teaching you Locke on last Sunday. Okay, so it was representative governments because when the contract created a law, a society first and then a state, the society itself accepted that each and everyone has certain rights. All right, except rights were surrendered to the government, but but the government was limited because the government under law could not touch right to life, right to liberty, and right to property of an individual. That's why I told you liberty, property is given utmost important by Locke. And that's the reason why, because liberty and property is given so much of importance, he is called as a father of liberalism. All right, so the government definitely becomes a limited government, because like government's functions are very clearly stated, and they are not supposed to interfere with life, right to liberty, and right to property of any person. So that's why I told you there are two treatises. Remember, two treatises. So first treatise creates a society, second treatise is only to create government. All right, so basically it, when you talk about Locke, that's the reason why we say Locke is the father of liberalism. All right. Again, liberalism, like I told you, it's a intellectual movement, not a fixed mode of thought. You will see it when I start teaching you further. You will realize it's an intellectual movement. All right. The central theme was committed to extreme form of individualism, utilitarianism, mixed economy, and constitutionalism. Individualism, because I told you Hobbes as well as Locke, liberal theory of state. I told you social contract theory is nothing but liberal theory of state. See, liberalism has the word liberal in it. All right, so this concept comes from your social contract thinkers, especially Locke as well as Hobbes. But Locke is the one who's actually talking about liberalism. So because he talks about liberalism, he talks about liberty, he talks about property, he talks about limited government. That's the reason why Locke, as well as other social contract thinkers, are said to be the founders of liberal theory of state. The state is supposed to be limited according to Locke. State is supposed to be absolute according to Hobbes. While Rousseau said it is the people in whom all the power rests, okay, in a society. So popular sovereignty. So see, different views of state. That's why liberal theory of state is social limited state, do not touch the right to life, liberty, and property of individuals. While Rousseau says, look, the state has to be absolute, but the power to the state comes from we the people, popular sovereignty. You, me, all the people constituting a state, our real wills coming together creates popular sovereignty. So the state is absolute, but the power that state gets is from people like you and me. All right, that's why liberal theory of state is nothing but your social contract thinkers. All right, now we just stop for a second here. Class, have you understood till now? This is only introduction. You do not have to by heart this, just listen to it. Have you understood till now? Okay, thanks Anjali. Akansha, Aditya, Kritika, have you understood? Himanshu, have you understood? Janvi, can you hear me clearly? Is there any disturbance? Okay, thanks Akansha. Janvi, have you understood? Okay, let's start with your concept of liberalism. All right. Now, elements of liberalism. First is individualism. All right. Supreme importance is given to human beings. Liberalism, okay, was one ideology who absolutely concentrated on individualism. Individual was said to be the most important. All right. Any bonds, anything related to individual was only important from individual point of view. So human beings and individual is the central theme or the most important focus of liberalism. Liberalism, the word itself has liberty in it, so definitely it's liberalism. So liberty is definitely going to be given more importance over equality and justice. So liberty of individual is more important. Reason, again, because we're talking about social contract theory itself, so that's the reason. Remember, even Hobbes spoke about reason, but in Hobbes reason was inactive. In Locke, reason is very active. All right. Rousseau said reason is useless, but reason still matters. That's why under liberalism, individualism, liberty, and reason are the three most important tenets of liberalism. All right. It is an individual who has reasons, and because of those reasons, he understands what is his self interest. And that is how he can compete and become successful, is what liberalism talks about. There is no difference between self interest and common interest of individuals. It is considered common interest as a point of reconciliation between interests of different individuals. Each one of us has self interest, so all our self interests coming together become the common interest. I want profit, you all also want profit, see, it becomes a common interest. All right, so common interest becomes a point of reconciliation of all the interest of all the different individuals. Man is endowed with natural rights which cannot be violated by any authority. I told you, Hobbes as well as Locke, okay, believed that yes, there were certain natural laws, there were certain natural rights which were present. Okay, Locke said these natural rights, the three natural rights that Locke talks about, right to life, liberty, and property, cannot be touched by the state. Okay, state cannot touch any of these rights. All right. So these civil liberties like freedom of thought and expression, association, movements, and strict compliance with legal and judicial procedures is also upheld. Class, natural is without any enforcement. Okay, there is no state, there is no judiciary, there is no parliament to make laws. That's why it's called natural rights. All right, they come from nature. So man requires reason to understand these natural rights and to accept the fact that if I have natural rights, so do all of you. All right, but there is no enforcement, there is no punishment for violation of natural rights. That's why they're not easily followed. Okay, and that's the reason why you have to come up with civil liberties. What is civil liberties? Civil meaning the ones, the rights, the liberties which are guaranteed by the state. Civil, whenever you hear the word civil, it means liberties, equality, rights, whatever, or civil law, which is guaranteed by the state. It is enforced by a state. All right. And violation of this law, abridgment of this law, will bring about penalties or punishment. So, civil liberties are backed by the state. Natural law is not backed by the state. Natural law is backed by reason, but people can violate it. That's the reason why state is required. Okay, that's the reason why state is required, so that civil liberties guaranteed by the state have enforcement value, and second, they have punishment and penalties for its violation. That's exactly the reason why Locke came up with social contract. What did Locke say? Society was good, people were good, they had reason, they were happy, but there were problems. Even if all the people are good, there can be some negative elements in the society. They may create crimes, they may violate natural rights. All right. So the problem was there was nobody to make laws, there was nobody to implement those laws, and there was nobody who was an impartial judge to punish the wrongdoers. That's the reason why first treatise created a society. Okay, and second treatise created a state. So the state was given the function of making laws, implementing laws, judicial function, as well as have federative function of managing your foreign policy. All right, so what does this mean? Locke said civil liberties are important, civil rights are important, because they are backed by punishment. All right, there is a punishment which is there if you violate these rights. All right. So apart from those right to life, liberty, and property, that was only Locke. But as we developed from 17th century till the 21st century, today we have so many rights. We talk about freedom of thought and expression. This is a right which I'll teach you when I teach you J.S. Mill. That's why I'm teaching you liberalism first, so that you understand liberalism. J.S. Mill becomes simpler to understand. Freedom of thought and expression opened our constitution, Indian constitution, Article 19. First right is this: freedom of thought and expression is given to you. Freedom to form association is given in your Article 19. Freedom of movement and freedom of residence is also given in your Article 19. So Locke was in the 17th century. All right. He's only stuck with right to life, liberty, and property because he felt those were important. But liberalism kept on changing, centuries kept on changing, new thinkers came in, new thought process came in. That's why I told you it's liberalism is an intellectual movement. All right. There are people adding to it. So new freedoms, new liberties kept on getting added to it. Okay. And that's the reason why liberalism is said to be a very accommodative ideology. Okay. Civil society and state are artificial institutions created by individuals to serve common interest. I told you when I was teaching you social contract theory, the second line I told you was mechanistic theory of state. What is mechanistic theory of state? State is an artificial creation. That's why liberal theory of state is nothing but your social contract, artificial creation of state. They entered into a social contract, whether it is Hobbes, whether it is Locke, whether it is Rousseau. All three of them believed that state was a creation which is artificial because people were tired of the state of nature for certain reasons, and finally what came up together, created a contract, created a state. Leviathan is sovereign and it's Hobbes, I'm sorry, Rousseau's created the absolute state, but with power, with sovereignty. What is sovereignty? Supreme command. Supreme command that lies with we the people like you and me. All right. So civil society and state are artificial institutions according to liberalism also. That's why it does not give too much of importance to state. All right, does not give too much of importance to state. So there are two concepts. One is organic theory of state, that is concept of state being natural. For best example, I taught you Aristotle. All right, what did I teach you on Aristotle? Aristotle said man is a political animal. His needs are never satisfied, so he cannot remain alone. He was not satisfied, created a family. Still not satisfied, created a village. Still not satisfied, created a state. So state came into existence according to Aristotle for sake of life, but it made avenue of good life possible. All right, so it continued. So here it is natural. Here it is natural. So where thinkers like Hegel, Aristotle believe that state is a natural institution. It's like a natural organism. All right, that is called as the organic theory of state. That state is like your body, various organs are like your organs. So hands, eyes, etc. You have legislature, executive, judiciary as various organs of a state. So natural, wherever you believe that state is a natural creation, all right, it is called as organic theory. Right opposite of it is liberal theory, social contract. It says state is not natural. State is basically created because of a contract. So state is artificial institution. So remember, organic means state is naturally created. Social contract thinkers are mechanistic theory. They say it is not natural. State is an artificial creation. People came together, created a social contract, and created a state. So state is artificial. Liberal theory, of course, belongs to the social contract theory. So of course, is going to believe that state is an artificial institution. Okay, it believes in equality. Liberalism believes in equality, but only political and legal equality, no social and economic equality. Okay, so liberalism does not believe in social and economic equality. They believe avenue of life is created for you. You use your capability, use your capacity, use your talents, and make a good life for yourself. All right, so liberalism only stands for legal equality. In eyes of law, each one of us is equal. Nobody is above law, nobody is below law. So if president of India and you and me stand together, we are subjected to the same law, IPC, CPC, CRPC. All right, to the same judiciary. So equality before law, no special privileges. All right, that is the concept of legal equality. In eyes of law, each one of us is equal. Okay, Liberalism believes in legal equality. In eyes of law, each one of us is equal. Political equality. All of us have right to enter political process, to contest elections, to vote, etc. So legal equality is given, political equality is given. No social and economic equality is given. Liberalism does not talk about social equality, does not talk about economic equality. They talk about economic equality only from the point of view that these are the things made available to you, utilize them, and create a life of your own. All right. So if you're super successful, that success is yours. If you are poor, that failure is yours. So it's not going to talk about social and economic equality. This concept will only come when you talk about modern liberalism. Consent of people is the basis of authority of state. Locke spoke about that. Constitutionalism and limited government. Do not touch right to life, liberty, and property of the people. State is an artificial creation. So whatever work has been given, only do that much. Do not try to encroach and take more powers. That is limited government. And rule according to the constitution. So written constitution, there are rules written down. You have to follow those rules and perform according to those rules. No arbitrary power is given to you. No arbitrary power is given to you. Class, have you understood till now? So I've just told you what is ideology. I've given you an overview of what is liberal theory of state. All right, it is nothing but concept given by your social contract theory. Then I told you what is liberalism. That's why there is always a quote which generally says that it is not a fixed mode of thought. It's an intellectual movement. It keeps on changing. All right. Next, I told you what is organic theory. Organic theory meaning it is state is a natural creation. Right opposite is your mechanistic theory, wherein mechanistic theory believes social contract is the basis from which your state was created. That means state is an artificial institution. All right. Then what are the tenets of your liberalism? L for liberalism, L for liberty. Individualism. Most important, limited government. Okay, talks about legal equality and political equality, does not talk about social and economic equality. All right. Treats state as an artificial creation. All right. Have you understood till now? Okay, one second. Okay. Akansha, see, civil liberty simplistically means that a liberty which is guaranteed by the state. So if I encroach on your liberty or I encroach on your freedom, I can be punished by the state. So natural liberty, it comes from nature. Civil liberty is backed by the state. That's the only difference. So in civil liberty, because it is backed by the state, if you violate liberty of anybody else, state may punish you. That's the only difference. Natural liberty is naturally available through reason. Civil liberty is backed by the government. That's it. So if you violate civil liberty, which is backed by the government, you will be punished. You will be punished. Have you understood, Akansha? Civil liberty is enforced by the state and there is punishment for its violation. Okay, then I'll continue then. Okay. Now we come to the main tenets of liberalism. All right. First is the classical liberalism, starts in 17th century. See here itself in the introduction, I told you that liberalism is a 17th century ideology. All right. Locke also belonged to 17th century liberalism. The father of liberalism is nobody else but John Locke. Okay, social contract theory. So it is a 17th century ideology. Philosophy of a state is laissez-faire. Okay, in the economic field, laissez-faire means basically it means leave alone. Leave alone. Laissez-faire means leave alone. Okay, in the economic field, and limited state in the political field. So what does it mean? Like I told you, the philosophy of classical liberalism was first limited state. State has only been given limited functions. They have to only do that much. All right. Everything by the people themselves. So if I have entrepreneurial skills, I open a shop and I become exceedingly successful, mine. All avenues are open to everybody. You have to use your capacity, you have to use your ability, you have to use your internal intelligence, all right, and make a good life of yours for yourself. If you are successful, the success is yours. If you are poor, the failure is yours. This is basically the concept of laissez-faire. Laissez-faire means open market. Okay, everybody has equal opportunities. What you make out of those opportunities, that decides your success and failures. If you are successful in utilizing it, all right, it's an open market. If you have merit, if you have intelligence, if you have good capacity and you utilize it and you become successful, the profits is yours. But if you are unsuccessful and you remain poor, that failure is again yours. All right. So each and every individual has to have a level playing field, make whatever you have to out of the avenues available to you. So it is open market system. Sorry, class. I think there was some problem of internet from my side. We'll continue. Okay. Liberalism. So basically, I was telling you the philosophy of state is laissez-faire. Laissez-faire means open market. Do whatever opportunities are given to you. If you utilize them, make a good life for yourself. All the profit and the success is yours. If you are a failure, the failure is yours. The state is not responsible. State has very limited role. All right. Who are the political philosophers? John Locke, Adam Smith, and Jeremy Bentham. Okay, now I want to talk about them in a little bit detail. Class, can you hear me? Because now it's a very important concept coming up. Can you hear me? Okay, Janvi, just show me a thumbs up so that it becomes easier rather than looking at the chat box. Okay, fine. Okay. Now, class, John Locke, you already know. John Locke basically spoke about limited state. He said right to life, liberty, and property of an individual cannot be touched. Do not touch the right to life, liberty, and property of an individual. So, state is limited. Okay, state has to behave in a manner with consent of the people, rule of majority, not affecting right to life, liberty, and property of an individual. So, what does John Locke hold? Very important: liberty, liberalism, liberty, and property. The same thing is laissez-faire. Your property is your very own. All right. So if you are successful, success is yours. If you're a failure, failure is yours. State is not going to interfere in it. That is a concept which comes from John Locke. Adam Smith. When you talk about Adam Smith, okay, Adam Smith was an economist. Like I told you, liberalism is not just political. It has economists, sociologists, everybody playing a role in it. That's why we consider liberalism to be a intellectual movement. Sociologists, political scientists, as well as economists like Adam Smith also contributed to it. What was Adam Smith's concept? Adam Smith is the founder of this concept. Laissez-faire, laissez-faire, open market is the concept basically coming from Adam Smith. What does it mean? It means leave alone. Leave the economy alone. State should not interfere in the economic activities of the people. State should not interfere in the economic activities of the people. That is the meaning of laissez-faire. Okay, this is laissez-faire comes from Adam Smith. He is a classical liberal. All right. So Adam Smith spoke about laissez-faire, meaning leave alone, leave the economy alone. State should not interfere in the economy. That's what I told you. It's an open economy. It's open competition. Everything is available to everybody. Now out of that, if you work very hard, utilize your abilities, create a good life for yourself, that life is your own, that profit is your own. All right. And if somebody is unsuccessful, that failure is that person's, because it's an open market. State is not supposed to interfere. That's the concept of laissez-faire. It comes from Adam Smith. So Adam Smith said there is this concept called as natural liberty given to everybody. All right. How you utilize it. Okay, everybody has a profit motive. I have a profit motive. Janvi will have a profit motive. Siddesh will have a profit motive. Okay, Larif will have a profit motive. All of us have profit motives. All right. So each and every individual understands what is required for that person. That's why I told you the first tenet of liberalism is individualism. All right. Because Locke as well as Adam Smith believed that, listen, each and every individual knows what is important for that person. The state does not have to come and tell him. Okay. A political entity called state does not have to come and tell an individual what is right and what is wrong for him. Adam Smith says, let it be an open market. Let everybody compete. What you make out of life is your very own. All right. Each and every man has natural liberty. Each and every man is aware of his own selfish interest or self interest. As long as those self interests are taken care of, the state does not have to come and tell the people what to do and what not to do. And once my self interest is taken care of, Janvi's self-interest is taken care of, majority people's self-interest is taken care of, people are going to be happy. People are going to be happy. This concept comes when you talk about Jeremy Bentham. You have to understand Jeremy Bentham to understand J.S. Mill. All right. That's the reason why I'm teaching you liberalism before J.S. Mill. So, classical liberalism basically believes in laissez-faire, that is your open market. Remove all the obstacles. Leave alone the economy from the interference of state. And it is talks about limited state. John Locke, Adam Smith, all right, Adam Smith is the one who came up with laissez-faire. So that's why he's called as the father of laissez-faire. John Locke is the father of liberalism. Jeremy Bentham is the father of utilitarianism. Okay, so for Jeremy Bentham, the basic concept was that, listen, man belongs, or man is a victim or a slave of two sovereign concept called as pleasure and pain. Pleasure and pain. I spoke about pleasure and pain when I spoke to you about Hobbes also, human nature, pleasure and pain. Man always will do whatever is gives him pleasure. Remember chemical locha? The particles in your brains will go towards whatever gives you pleasure and go in the opposite direction of whatever gives you pain. So whatever gives you pleasure, you do. Whatever gives you pain, you avoid. That concept is again spoken by Jeremy Bentham. Okay. Jeremy Bentham is a father of utilitarianism. I'm again and again repeating it because I wanted to remember this. John Locke is a father of liberalism. Adam Smith is a father of laissez-faire, and Jeremy Bentham is a father of utilitarianism. Utilitarianism, basic concept, simplistically means that man is a slave of pleasure and pain. You will do whatever gives you pleasure, you will do more of it. Whatever gives you pain, you will do less of it. So this is the concept of utility. Utility is what gives you more pleasure and what avoids pain. I know wrong time, but if I give you ice cream and Karela, what will you prefer? You will associate pleasure with ice cream. All right. And you will associate pain, bad taste, bitter taste with Karela, bitter gourd. So what will you prefer? According to Jeremy Bentham, your utility will say, go for ice cream. It's going to give you pleasure. So you are basically a slave to the sovereign concepts of pleasure and pain. Utility is increasing your pleasure, avoiding your pain. All right. But Jeremy Bentham came up with this concept saying, see, man is only running behind pleasure. He's only bothered with quantity of pleasure. So if I give him 10 ice creams and one ice cream, he will be happy when he'll be more happy, he'll be more satisfied, he'll receive more pleasure from 10 ice creams as compared to one ice cream. So Jeremy Bentham concentrates only on the quantity of pleasure. 10 ice creams will give you more happiness over one ice cream. All right. So Jeremy Bentham says, see, 10 and one ice cream. What am I doing? I am quantifying it. 10 ice cream and one ice cream. I'm quantifying it. This measurement, okay, that more pleasure will come from more number is nothing but quantity. And this quantity of pleasure can be calculated by philosophic calculus. By philosophic calculus. Class, Jeremy Bentham is not there in your syllabus. You're not studying Jeremy Bentham under Western philosopher, Western political thought. All right. So Jeremy Bentham, you just need to know whatever I have told you, because Jeremy Bentham is required in classical liberalism as well as in Adam Smith. So don't go into details of Jeremy Bentham. Just understand that he's a father of utilitarianism, believes man is a slave to pleasure and pain. Whatever gives you pleasure, you do. Whatever gives you pain, you avoid. Jeremy Bentham is only talking about utility. What is utility? Whatever gives you pleasure, doing it more is utility. Ice cream has more utility than bitter gourd. All right. Jeremy Bentham only concentrates on quantity of pleasure. 10 ice creams are going to give you more pleasure according to Jeremy Bentham than one ice cream. So see, I'm calculating, there are numbers, numerical value comes in. So basically quantity can be measured. Okay, weighing scale hota hai na? If you go to the vegetable market, they have a weighing scale. All right, the same thing, that it can be measured. Quantity of pleasure can be measured. 10 ice creams will give you more pleasure compared to one ice cream. And because of that, this calculation of quantity was nothing but philosophic calculus, where Jeremy Bentham said that utility, okay, can be calculated, pleasure can be calculated, it can be quantified. 10 ice creams compared to one ice cream, which will give you more pleasure? 10 ice creams. So this calculation of quantity can be done by philosophic calculus. All right, it depends, it is basically has the concepts like utility, proximity, duration of pleasure, etc. All right. So this is what Jeremy Bentham is talking about. Nothing more than that you need to know about Jeremy Bentham. Utilitarianism, father of utilitarianism, pleasure and pain concept. Utility depends upon what gives you pleasure and you avoid pain. Quantity is more important and it can be calculated through philosophic calculus. That is only thing you need to know about Jeremy Bentham. Quantity. Okay. J.S. Mill. Now, J.S. Mill was again influenced by Jeremy Bentham. He considered Jeremy Bentham, utilitarian, Jeremy Bentham to be his teacher. But J.S. Mill is a transitional philosopher between classical and modern liberalism. That's the reason why I'm teaching you liberalism before I teach you J.S. Mill. All right. J.S. Mill is a transitional from classical to the next. Whatever I'm going to teach you is the one whose that modern liberalism concept comes with J.S. Mill. All right. J.S. Mill actually brought about a change in Jeremy Bentham's utilitarianism. Okay, he brought about the concept of quality, but that I'll go in detail when I teach you J.S. Mill. All right. So you just need to remember classical liberalism, three thinkers, by heart them: John Locke, Adam Smith, Jeremy Bentham. All right. Basic philosophy is laissez-faire, open economy, open market society. Leave the economic activities of an individual alone. State should not interfere in economic activities of the people. All right. J.S. Mill is a transitional thinker, starts with classical liberalism, but goes on to establish modern liberalism. Okay. Classical liberalism has a negative connotation of liberty, which was non-interference or absence of constraint on individual liberty. Classical liberalism is also called as negative liberalism because it is talking about non-interference of state in economic field. Wherever the words like absence, non-interference comes up, we associate that with negative concept in politics. All right. So negative liberalism means basically non-interference of the state in economic activities of the people. That's why we talk about laissez-faire. That's why we talk about open market economy. Okay, now this is very important. So what is a state? The state becomes a necessary evil. Classical liberals, John Locke, Adam Smith, Jeremy Bentham, okay, considered state to be a necessary evil because it is negative. What is it? Why is it negative? Because state cannot interfere in the economic activities of the people. It's not allowed. It is open market economy. It is laissez-faire. Leave alone the economy. Let people utilize their natural capabilities and create a good life for themselves. State only has to maintain the protection and defense of the people. All right, nothing more than that. So state becomes a necessary evil. Only to maintain law and order state is required. Rest everything is decided by the individual people themselves by competing in an open market. Create a life for yourself. State is only required for protection and defense. All right, that's why Paine called it necessary evil. In classical liberalism, whenever you write about classical liberalism, see, that's why I underlined it. You have to use the word laissez-faire, limited state, these three thinkers, and the concept that state was a necessary evil. State could not interfere. State could not interfere in the affairs of the people, especially economic activities. So only protective functions are given to the state. Man is considered as individualistic and rational. Adam Smith said no, he has natural liberty. He has reasons. That's what Locke said. He knows whatever is good for himself. So let him make a life out of life for his own. State should only be available for protection and defense against foreign invasions. All right. So classical liberalism believes that society is a creation of man, artificial creation. John Locke, first treatise, I told you, just for explain, that first created a society, then came a state. So society as well as a state are not natural but a result of contract. So society as well as state are both artificial creations, are artificial creations because they are created by a contract. That's why liberal theory of state comes from John Locke, as well as social contract thinkers. Classic liberals believe that natural rights are only recognized civil and political rights, but not social and economic rights. I told you, this classical liberals basically believe in natural rights, but only in civil and political rights, not social and economic rights. Why no social economic rights? Because society cannot interfere. All right, society and the state cannot interfere in the economic activities of the people. So classical liberals like John Locke, Jeremy Bentham, Adam Smith believed open economy, open market, free market. You have all the avenues. Okay, what you make out of your life is your own. So state is a limited state. Only protection has to be done by state. Only defense functions has to be done by states. Nothing more than that. Do not interfere. That's why laissez-faire means leave alone the economic activities of the people. All right. So social and economic rights cannot be given because social and economic rights mean equality. Society, all the people, rich and poor, should be treated equally. Same social rights. That goes completely against the concept of classical liberalism. Classical liberalism says no social economic rights. No. Only rights that we know are civil and political rights. Compete, make a life for your own. The people who are rich do not owe anything to the people who are poor, because the rich people worked hard. They use their natural abilities. They use their own labor to create something. This concept of using your labor was when I spoke about property, when I spoke about Aristotle. The same thing I spoke about when I told you about Locke, that Locke is one person who believes in property. So social and economic rights cannot be given because right to life, liberty, and property are sacrosanct according to liberals, especially Locke. All right. So only civil and political rights are given, no social and economic rights, because I cannot treat you equally, because if one person is rich in open market, another person is poor, I cannot treat them socially and economically equal. No. All right. So remember, classical liberals do not believe in social and economic rights. All right. Only in civil and political rights. Because in society and in political rights, that is political rights are basically interference of a state, and state is any which way is limited. All right. So because of that, political rights are okay, civil rights are okay, because they're guaranteed by the state. Everybody has to be protected by the state. Everybody has to vote. That is allowed. Okay, because the government is by rule of people. So civil rights and political rights are guaranteed to all in classical liberalism. What is not guaranteed is social economic life, because of the concept of laissez-faire, open market. Make your profits, the profit is yours. You make losses, the losses are yours. So no social and economic rights. Like I told you, utilitarianism talks about pain and pleasure. Okay, so pain and pleasure comes, more the quantity, more the pleasure, which can be calculated, Jeremy Bentham said, through philosophic calculus. So how do you use it? So Jeremy Bentham says any public policy should be based on greatest happiness of greatest number of people. See, I've written it here in inverted commas. Jeremy Bentham talks about utilitarianism, meaning public policy should try to achieve greatest happiness of greatest amount of people. All right. So what makes majority happy, that should be done. Okay. So in this way, even if it leads to sacrificing certain people for their interest or sacrifice for the interest of majority, it is fine. Greatest happiness of greatest amount of people should be the end or the focus of a public policy. So while achieving greatest happiness of greatest number of people, certain few people may be disadvantaged. Certain people may not have their own interest. Their interest may be taken. Okay, that is fine, because finally collectivism is more important. Okay, according to Jeremy Bentham. So Jeremy Bentham is the father of utilitarianism, pleasure and pain concept. Quantity of pleasure matters, and the public policy should be on the basis of greatest happiness of greatest number of people. So because happiness is on the greatest number of people, what happened when you bring that into your reality? Okay, what happened was there was an open economy. Okay, open market economy. All of us, all 11 of us together sitting, okay, have the same avenues. Lairib, Asif made a very good life for themselves. Next, Janvi made a very good life for herself, but I could not make a good life for myself. Okay, so what happens? Utilitarianism says concentrate on what is going to give happiness to Lairib, what is going to give happiness to Asif, what is going to give happiness to Janvi, what is going to give happiness to other people. All right, forget what Ankita feels. Ankita is poor, so Ankita's interest can be sacrificed for happiness, greater happiness of the greater number of people. Okay, and that's why quantity of happiness matters. That's why comes the concept of philosophic calculus. So, greatest happiness of greater number of people is the concept of Jeremy Bentham's utilitarianism. When you applied it in the society, what happened? Open economy, certain people became very rich. They became the capitalist class, the bourgeois class. All right. And certain people became poor. These were the people who started working for the capitalist. Okay, these are the people who started working for the capitalist. And then capitalist, of course, capitalist was more interested in profit. Okay, he was more interested in increasing his own profit, because it's an open market. All right, each one of us has abilities. That particular capitalist used it properly, became very rich, opened huge industries. Now he's employing the poor people, and he's making those poor people work. Whatever money comes out of it, wages are paid, extra money becomes a profit for capitalist. All right, so who is supposed to be the focus here according to Jeremy Bentham? The capitalist. His happiness matters. Okay, his happiness matters. So greatest happiness of greater number of people. But it led to, when it was brought into practicality, it led to exploitation of worker class. Capitalist, they wanted profits, so they realized More and more workers they could employ. They could make the workers work for long hours, less payment, less wages. See, 10 people can get 100 rupees, but if I have 1,000 workers, okay, more the production, I will have to pay you less. All right. So what happened? The poorer people started becoming poorer and poorer. They were working for a long period of time. They hardly had any life. They were living a life of subsistence, because I could be fired any moment and somebody else could be hired in my place. All right. So there was no job security. While the workers were working for long hours, less payment, less wages, less production, less quality, less quantity, less quality, less quantity, 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 My internet connection seems to be doing fine. I don't know why this problem is constantly coming. Okay, class, till now, have you understood? Class, can you hear me? First question. Can you hear me? Have you understood classical liberalism? Classical liberalism led to creation of the capitalist class. All right. Rich people became richer and richer. Poorer people became poorer and poorer. State is necessary evil only for defense and protection. All right. Rest everything is done by the capitalist class. Jeremy Bentham's concept. Greatest happiness of greatest amount of people. All right. So what happened? Class, social division started taking place. All right. And because social division started taking place, what happened? Karl Marx rose. Karl Marx said, look, this capitalist class, the bourgeois class needs to be overthrown, and the worker class needs to establish its own rule. So, because socialism started becoming very popular, classical liberalism had to undergo changes. So now, classical liberalism under John Locke, Adam Smith, Jeremy Bentham of the 17th century, which spoke about open market, okay, open economy, had to undergo change, because greatest happiness of greatest amount of people led to exploitation of the worker class, led to creation and led to formulation of Marxist theory. So classical liberalism now paid a different name, modern liberalism. Modern liberalism is also called as positive liberalism, as well as concept of welfare state. Okay, welfare state concept comes with J.S. Mill, the next thinker that we'll be studying in Western political thought. Okay, so from 17th century till almost 1930s, all right, classical liberalism dominated, because classical liberals were tired of feudal economy. Okay, the landlords, they were tired of the absolute monarchy, so they wanted the power shifted into hands of the newly rising middle class, the capitalist class. Okay, but they did not realize that while giving all the power to capitalist class, classical liberals fail to realize that it can lead to social inequalities. Worker class will become exploited and capitalist class will only enjoy profits. Because of that, it led to the concept of socialism and Marxism. And because of that, the concept of utilitarianism. Utilitarianism today. I really don't know what is happening. Okay, let me continue. Okay. So, modern liberalism, the concept of welfare state comes from J.S. Mill. Okay. He is a transitional thinker. He changed from, he was the first believer in classical liberalism. State should not intervene. Okay. State should not intervene. Let it be an open market. Everybody achieves whatever is according to their own capabilities. But then he started realizing that, listen, look at it, classical liberalism actually led to creation of unequal society. It led to creation of unequal society. Okay, so what happened? He said, forget it. Limited state, negative view of state, state being a necessary evil cannot work. State has to start playing a more positive role. State has to start playing a more positive role. And that role basically comes from your concept of modern liberalism. It comes from the concept of modern liberalism. Can you hear me clearly? Karan, I cannot. Next. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. I can see Tejas giving me a thumbs up. Okay. So now let's come to the concept of welfare state. Okay. So what happened? J.S. Mill came up with this concept of welfare state. Okay. So now state is not seen as a necessary evil like your classical liberals. Rather, it is seen as a positive, proactive state wherein state takes care of everything. So state takes care of your defense, state takes care of your trade unions, labor legislation, avoiding exploitation, taxation. So state taxes the rich people, all right? State taxes the rich people and takes the money and gives it to the poor people. That's the concept of your welfare state, which was spoken about by Green, Lasky, and J.S. Mill. So classical liberals spoke about state having limited work, okay, necessary evil, only defense and protection. Welfare state under J.S. Mill said no. Let the state have a more positive impact. Okay, more welfare function should be associated with the state. All right. So why was it associated with the state? Because they said, look what classical liberals end up creating. It ended up creating exploitative classes. Capitalists became rich and workers became poorer and poorer. So state has to intervene. That's why it is called as positive liberalism, positive role of a state. That is a welfare state. Okay. J.S. Mill started with this concept. Then T.H. Green, Lasky, etc. continued with it. So here, state is not seen as a necessary evil like classic liberals. State is seen as welfare state. That state actually helps in creating a good life for the people. In creating good life for the people. All right. So basically, equality before law, equality of opportunities is given to all. Welfare state, what will the welfare state do? It will take care of everything that is required to give you a good life. Labor legislation, compensation to the workers in case of injury, trade unions will be allowed, taxation of the rich so that money can be given to the deprived sections. So now state becomes very important. It plays a very proactive role. So this proactive role was to counter your Marxism. This proactive role was to counter your Marxism as well as the evil of inequalities created by your classical liberalism. So I'll repeat again, classical liberalism is limited state, open market, laissez-faire. Okay, greatest happiness of greatest amount of people. That should be the policy of a government. And government, the state should only interfere in protection as well as defense. Nothing more than that. All right. But lead to this changed from 17th century to 1930. It changed. J.S. Mill said, boss, you created a chaos because of classical liberalism. Now the state has more powerful. It has to become more positive. It has to become a welfare state. It has to interfere not just with defense and protection, but also in labor legislation, taking taxes, taxing the rich and giving it to the poorer people. So equality before law and equality of opportunity is respected. But in case you cannot make profits for yourself or a good life for yourself, don't worry. State is there to take care of you. State will tax the rich and give whatever is required to the poor. India is a concept of welfare state. We have, you see the budget, you have tax slabs, etc. So you tax the rich and give it to the poor. All right. So this is the concept of welfare state. So first is classical liberalism, modern liberalism, positive liberalism, welfare state is nothing but your welfare state concept. So theory of liberal state or the welfare state, same thing has to be written in your theory of state also. Okay. Only the focus is ideology has to talk about ideas, classical liberalism, modern liberalism, neoliberalism. Theory of state has to talk about state being evil, limited government under classical liberalism, state being a welfare state under modern or positive liberalism. All right, that's the only difference. Theory of state says state, so state के ऊपर focus करना है. Ideology is about liberalism, so whatever I'm teaching has to be written in your ideology. Okay, we class, have you understood till now? Understood classical liberalism, understood modern liberalism? Class, just go to neoliberalism and then come to your thinkers. Understood this? So classical liberalism, limited state, laissez-faire, created problems. So came the concept of welfare state or positive liberalism. But again, I told you, liberalism is a intellectual movement. It did not stop with welfare state also, and finally led to creation of neoliberalism. So first is classical liberalism, Adam Smith, John Locke, Jeremy Bentham, greatest happiness of greatest amount of people. I'm repeating again and again so that you by heart it in the class itself. All right, so that you will never forget. But created problems, the limited scope given to the government or the state created problems, created economic inequalities because of open market laissez-faire. So came the concept of welfare state, that no, state is important. State is there to take care of the deprived sections. So J.S. Mill said it is important to take care of welfare of the poorer sections also. So came the concept of positive or modern or welfare concept of liberalism. But then again, people were not happy with it. Comes the concept of neoliberalism. So liberalism has only three tenets: classical, modern or welfare state, and neoliberalism. Okay. Neoliberalism came after 1970s till now. Again, the concept of night watchman state, meaning necessary evil. Only state is required only for protection and defense purposes only. So it is nothing but contemporary concept of classical liberalism. When you talk about classical liberalism, okay, classical liberalism gave way to your concept of modern liberalism, but people were not happy. So finally they said, forget modern liberalism, forget welfare state, go back to classical liberalism. Okay. And these are the thinkers who spoke about neoliberalism are Milton Friedman, Hayek, and Nozick. Milton Friedman, Hayek, as well as Nozick. Okay, these people, neoliberals, are also called as new right movements or libertarians. They were influenced by John Locke. They were influenced by John Locke's concept of property and contract. All right, so they believed that, listen, welfare state is not going to work. What will happen because of welfare state? What happened? Classical liberalism created exploitative class, but welfare state started creating corruption. All right, there was a lot of corruption going on, bureaucrats getting all the money. Okay, because implementation was done by the bureaucrats. All right, so bureaucrats kept on getting money, corruption increased, inefficiency increased, because a state was supposed to look at everything. look at medical needs, look at educational needs, look at public amenities, look at taxation. State was doing everything. So state became very, very powerful. But it also led to corruption. So neoliberals said, stop with this concept of welfare state. Go back to classical liberalism. Let's have a night watchman state or a limited state again. So neoliberal is nothing but contemporary view of classical liberalism. All right. They were tired with welfare state concept because it led to a lot of corruption. And so they finally concluded that stop all of this. Stop welfare concept. Let's have concept of classical liberalism back. What is that? Limited state. Okay. But neoliberals, okay, neoliberals went two steps further from classical liberals. To an extent, they said an individual knows what is required for him, what is best in his own interest. So individual should never be constrained by family, individual should not be constrained by religion, individual should not be constrained by what is morally right, morally wrong. Let individual decide for himself. Full autonomy, full autonomy, no restrictions on individual. All right. State is only night watchman, only defense and protection ka state ka kaam hai. Baki full autonomy is given to individual. Family, religion, church, morality, nothing matters to him. Man is a maker of his own destiny. Laissez-faire, open market, compete. Whoever is successful, profit is yours. Whoever is a failure, failure is yours. Same concept of classical liberalism, but only difference is absolute autonomy to individual. Okay, absolute autonomy to individual. And laissez-faire, open market, not just in economic field, even in social field, even in your political field. So whoever has more money will dominate society, will dominate political field, will dominate economic field. Why? Because man is a maker of his own destiny. Friedman, Nozick, all of them believe let everything be decided by markets. Whatever markets decide, whatever open markets decide, if you earn a lot, the money is yours. If you lose, the failure is yours. All right. So only difference between neoliberal and classical liberal is giving full autonomy to individual. Okay. Full autonomy is given to individual. That's why neoliberals wanted to roll back the frontiers of the state. They said, do away with this welfare state concept. Remove, roll back the frontier of the state. Let the state go back again to only protection and defense purpose. Rest, everything will be decided by the markets. Your social standing, your political standing, your economic standing, everything will be decided by your markets. Welfare state was very much practiced by USA, UK. Okay, but under Ronald Reagan, who was the president of United States, and Thatcher, they changed from welfare state to neoliberalism, because welfare state creates a lot of pressure on the state. All right, the president and the prime ministers only have to take care of everything. No, they are the ones leading the government. So Reagan and Thatcher said, boss, we can't deal with welfare state anymore. Let's do away with this concept of welfare state. Let's appreciate and let's come up with concept of neoliberalism, full autonomy to the people. All right, man is a maker of his own destiny. Plus the emergence of World Trade Organization in 1995. Okay, it gave more importance to economics over politics. Okay, so that also created a very cohesive atmosphere for growth of neoliberalism. Therefore Nozick, in his book Anarchy, State and Utopia, said that let's go back. Okay, he revived the concept of night watchman state or classical liberalism. See, I've written here, or minimal state or limited state. So Nozick said, forget welfare state. Let's go back to rolling back the frontier of the state and go back to limited state, night watchman state, or minimalist state. Okay, so neoliberals believed that state controlled economy led to inefficiency, welfare state led to inefficiency and poor growth. Okay, whatever the money was never reached to the targeted audiences because bureaucrats used to become corrupt. Planning and everything is irrational. They believed, why plan? Let markets decide whatever is important. All right, that led to Milton Friedman saying market was needed for freedom. society, state, everything does comes only when markets are important. So it should be a free market economy, open competition. Whoever earns profit, the profit is theirs. Whoever loses, the loss is their own. So Milton Friedman goes to an extent of saying market was needed for freedom. Without free market, no freedom was given to people. So according to these neoliberals, full autonomy, full freedom was supposed to be given to an individual in social, political, and economic field. Extreme libertines or extreme liberals say state is required. We don't require state. State का काम क्या है? Protection, protection and defense. If state is only required for protection and defense, why do you require state? Let's have a private agency. Let's hire private agencies. So state is also not required. But these were extreme neoliberals. Okay, they were extreme. Moderate neoliberals said no. State is required because if there is no state, it can create anarchy, like what Hobbes spoke about. So they said, let the state remain, but let the state only be limited to protection and defense. Nothing more than that. No taxation, no deprived people getting any concessions from the rich people. Full autonomy given to the individual, limited state, minimal state. Market decides how much you earn. If you earn more, you are rich. If you lose, the loss is yours. Okay, class, have you understood? Have you understood? So classical liberalism is basically limited state and market economy, but led to Marxism, led to socialism. So to protect liberalism from socialism, they came up with a concept of welfare state. State takes care of everything. J.S. Mill said, tax the rich people. Tax the rich people so that poor people also get 2 square meals a day. State takes care of everything and gives you a very good life. All right. But because welfare state was taking care of everything, it started becoming very powerful. Plus corruption increased, inefficiency increased, plus burden on the government increased. So finally, by the time 1970s came, neoliberals or libertarians, they said enough with this welfare state. Let's go back to capitalism. Only rest, full autonomy to a man, absolute laissez-faire in market, laissez-faire in economic field, in political field, in social field. Your social standing, economic standing, social standing, everything is decided by how much you earn and how you utilize free markets. All right. So no taxation, nothing, limited state. In classical liberalism that are generally asked. Sorry, in modern liberalism, which are generally asked. T.H. Green. All right. So here I'm talking about your welfare state concept. Under welfare state concept, I'm going to teach you 2 or 3 quotes of Green as well as Lasky. Green said, liberty is the capacity to do something worth doing. So he gives importance to capacity. See, capacity is internal, not see capacity. All right. So liberty that internal, internal that are taken Okay, this is really creating problems. Class, just give me 5 minutes and we'll complete this. All right, just give me 5 minutes and we'll complete this. All right, can you hear me? Just show me a thumbs up. Anjali, Tejas, please show me a thumbs up so that I know you can hear me. Okay, thanks, Tejas. Okay, human consciousness postulates liberty. Liberty involves rights. Rights demand a state. So basically, what T.H. Green is talking about here is that human consciousness postulates liberty. Liberty is not natural. Okay, it comes from the moral character of a person. Just listen to what I'm saying. Liberty comes from moral character of a person, and liberty postulates meaning accepts as true. Postulates meaning accepts as true. So liberty accepts rights. Rights are nothing but moral character of a person. T.H. Green is very affected by this concept of moral freedom, morality, moral consciousness. So T.H. Green is one person who believes that liberty accepts rights. But these rights, okay, these rights are nothing but moral characters of a people. They come from moral consciousness of the people. Okay, so these rights are basically recognized by society. These rights are recognized by the society, not by the state. Because where do you see moral consciousness? Moral consciousness, according to T.H. Green, is seen only in society. So I'll repeat again. Liberty necessitates rights. Rights come from moral character, moral consciousness of a person. They are not natural, according to T.H. Green. And these rights are recognized by the states. See here. These rights are basically guaranteed by the society, because rights cannot be enjoyed in isolation. Rights only come when I am living in a society. So rights are recognized by the society, not by the state. Okay, they are moral consciousness of a society. But they are recognized by the state, but their enforcement is done by state. So I'll repeat again. Rights are nothing but moral characters or moral consciousness of the people living in a society. That's the reason why rights can be only recognized by the society. So T.H. Green considers society more important than the state. Society is the one from which moral consciousness emanates, and from that social consciousness comes your rights. And these rights are recognized. See here. Society recognizes the rights, not the state. Okay? State is only created for guaranteeing those rights. I told you, what is guarantee? Punishment. If I betray, if I violate those rights, I will be punished. So according to T.H. Green, rights are natural. They are moral characters of a person. These rights are nothing but coming from and recognized by moral consciousness of a society. So society is more important because it recognizes rights. All right. And state is required only to remove hindrances to enjoyment of liberty and to guarantee these particular rights. So rights are basically ones which come from moral character, recognized by the moral consciousness of a society, according to T.H. Green. State is only required for guaranteeing these rights. Okay, and to remove any hindrances. And to remove any hindrances. So, what is more important according to T.H. Green? Society who recognizes rights is more important than state. Society is more important than state. Now let's come to Harold Lasky. Okay, Harold Lasky said every state is known by the right it maintains. A social order not based on rights or recognition of rights is nothing but based on sand. What does it mean? It means he's a modern liberal. See here, what he said, Lasky comes under modern liberals. So he says that basically he was the one who believed that, listen, it's a welfare state that is much more important. So rights etc only come when there is a welfare state, because everybody is respected. All right, and he had a little bit of socialist inclination. Welfare state is socialist. All right, Okay, because it is more about idealism, not just about capitalist class becoming rich. It's about capitalist class rich being taxed and given equality to everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, I think, okay, just give me a minute and then we'll stop because I think it has been too much on all of you. So we will stop after a minute, okay? I only want you to remember the concept that this quote, I want you to remember this quote: rights are those conditions of life without which no man can seek in general to be his best. This is a very famous quote given by Lasky. It means rights are very important, and that is how he reflects on positive view of a state. He gives an example of Soviet Union. He said Soviet Union was so powerful during Cold War time, but it disintegrated because everything was controlled by Communist Party. Okay, no rights were given to people, and because no rights were given to people, they did not enjoy rights. Soviet Union collapsed. That's why a social order not based on recognition of rights is an order based on sand. It will collapse. You can give an example of Soviet Union here. All right. So rights are very important. They are conditions of life without which no man can seek to be in general to be his best, is what Harold Lasky says. This concept, the rights are conditions of life which without which no man can in general seek to be his best, is what you have to talk about. If that quote is asked, tell them that he believed rights are very important because in welfare state has to play a positive role. All right, and any social order which does not recognize rights, like USSR, will collapse like sand. Okay, it will collapse like a sand castle. Next, he says, state should control the industries or capitalists will control the state. I told you, welfare state concept is nothing but the concept of socialism. All right. Deprived people should be also given importance. Welfare concept is nothing but socialist concept. All right. So his belief was the same, that he wanted that you have to, the state has to control the capitalist, otherwise capitalists will keep on becoming richer and richer, poorer people will become poorer and poorer, and it will lead to inequality. And remember what happens when inequality happens. Go back to Aristotle's concept of revolution. A revolution will happen and it will create chaos. That's exactly what happened when Karl Marx came up. Karl Marx also speaks about class struggle. What is class struggle? Between bourgeoisies and proletariat. Revolution that Aristotle talks about. So state should control industries or capitalists will control the state, because capitalists are so powerful. And this happened, okay, this happened after French Revolution 1789. Overthrow of monarchy happened. Louis XVI was executed. Okay, he was killed, and after that came the dictatorship, Napoleon Bonaparte. You must have heard about this person. All right, so the capitalist class started becoming powerful and powerful. All right, and because of that powerfulness, it had economic power as well as political power. All right, and that's the reason why exploitation started taking place, and that's why welfare state was a transition to classical liberalism. All right, so Lasky says, please control the capitalist. Learn from the mistakes of classical liberalism. Okay, it created inequalities, it led to exploitation of the workers, it led to capitalists gaining not just economic power, also political power, and it only led to anarchy. Okay, and that's the reason why you had to come up with the concept of welfare state. So state should control industries and capitalists, or otherwise capitalists will control political as well as economic power. That's it. Okay, we'll stop here. Anybody has any questions? Anybody has any questions? Tejas, Lare, Bakansha, Aditi, Janvi, have you all understood? At least show me a thumbs up so that I know class is going well. Classical liberalism. All right. So, theory of